further up and further in.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole.
You could say that.
I can see it in your eyes. You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he is expecting to wake up.
Welcome everybody, this is Team Rabbit Hole edition 312.
with Alicia Jacobs, Earth School Study Hall. Welcome, Alicia. Welcome, Jim. And welcome everyone watching live or watching later.
What up?
Hi.
I was so scared. I looked at the little comment section. He's like, get her back on. She left. And then I saw your text and I was like, we have 30 seconds. What's going on? Mercury is conjunct Uranus right now. So no duh. So real quickly, I'm just going to read a blip. So this is Alicia Jacobs. I know her as Rasidi, but so this is all new to me in my mind. But Alicia Jacobs, episode 312, Earth School Study Hall, like he says, nonprofit co-founder, visionary, healer, and Virgo. Join the team as we get to know Alicia, an international mover and shaker, taking her magic and grounding it, all while leading future generations towards a more holistic way of life via her Earthbound Academy. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we actually met each other like through the grapevine through somebody who's also been on the podcast, Natalie, I think Natalie is how she says it. Natalie with her Blue Lotus stuff. That was a long time ago, like in 2021 maybe. She came on 2022. But that's how I became aware of you and we connected. So we've never really hung out or talked. But as soon as I kind of saw what you were up to, I figured you might be somebody that I wanted to geek out with, and you were willing to be here, and that's why we out here doing it. So before we start really talking, something we do on the podcast is pull a card. I've already pulled a card. It's the Temperance card. I got so many glares and all this stuff. Temperance is the Sagittarius card, if people don't know. And it says, I am astonished by the beauty of life in all of its facets. Seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary, exquisite balance, a period of rebirth, slowing down and viewing the world with a magical, fresh perspective, and trust your intuition. So I'm kind of curious, Alicia, if anything synchronizes or hits with that card, or even the numerology of 312, which is 3 minus 1 is 2 or whatever. If not, that's okay. But I poke and prod with magic on the front end of things just to see how it goes.
That definitely resonates. The part that stood out most was the rebirth. I'm currently in a transitional phase, making my way to Puerto Rico. So right now I'm in the cocoon emerging. I'll be going on a trip in June to look for some land and look for a place to make the move official and really get my feet in the dirt with Earthbound Academy.
That's what's up. So obviously we're going to talk about Earthbound Academy. I'm kind of curious. You don't have to go all the way to your larval stage if you don't want to, but you're from the States. I know Puerto Rico is a territory. Tell us a little about the culture you grew up in, maybe some of the what did you do in college, if you even went, that kind of stuff. How did you get to where you're at, basically?
Well, I was born in Sacramento, California. I grew up in the foothills and moved around, between the Bay Area and Northern California throughout my life. And I grew up as a nature kid for the most part, and made my way to the city after graduating high school and had my fun in the city for some time being. I have a very free spirit. I love to explore and try new things. So yeah, I spent a lot of time doing that, and then coming back to nature. And I have 2 kids now. I decided to ground out and go to school. I went to school for Ayurvedic medicine. And yeah, I went down a whole rabbit hole with that, and that's led me to where I am today.
Let's talk about that for a second. If people aren't aware, Ayurvedic medicine, I'm pretty sure, is coming from like Hinduism, more or less, right? And that kind of school of thought. Before I ask you anything more about that, you are a Virgo sun, but your North Node is in Pisces, so it's like it seems like you are a hippie. It's very much Temperance card. It's both and, right? So it's like you are a hippie, and but free spirit, as you would say. But you're very practical and grounded and like reasonable, and it seems like you have a heart for service and nature. So that's pretty cool. So as far as the Ayurvedic stuff goes, how did you hear about that, and how did you turn on to that?
Well, I was going through my own personal journey, healing journey, and I found Ayurvedic medicine through a book by Deepak Chopra. And the book was called The Book of Secrets. And it resonated so deeply with me, just the the perspective and the thought process and everything. So I decided to read more books from him. And I found a book called Perfect Health, which talks about, it's like an intro to Ayurvedic medicine. And it just resonated so deeply with me that I started applying some of the practices into my life and seeing the benefits and how much it was helping me to heal my nervous system, to my digestive system, my mind, body, and spirit. And the art of healing yourself wholly, not just physically,
Right. Not just one
really
facet.
resonated with me. And so I happened to
the
find a
temperance
school.
card.
Yes, I happened to find a school for Ayurvedic medicine just the town up from me. So I decided to go and dive deep into it.
Well, that's fortuitous. It's like right up the road or whatever.
Yeah, very synchronistic.
That's what's up. Yeah, synchronicity abounds. When is it not syncing? We just have to have eyes to see it.
So
Go ahead, Raphael.
before we go on, since you talk about Ayurvedic medicine, I always love talking about health, even though there's only certain things we're allowed to say on YouTube and some things not so much. But still, generically speaking, or overall, I hear a slight, or maybe that's Alicia's and it's not you, Jim. You muted. What would you say are the main differences between what you may have heard before or what is taught in general Western medicine compared to Ayurvedic medicine in terms of approach or in terms of systemic view potentially? I'm curious what stuck out to you.
I noticed that compared to Western medicine is more treating the symptom of whatever said issue. It may just, one moment, sir.
You're cool.
It's my cat.
Oh,
She's
well, it
very
is a new
pregnant right
moon.
now.
Love cats.
Right? Yeah, they're like,
Yes.
yeah, oh
Yeah.
my god,
Yeah.
A lot of cat action happening these days. But yeah, where was I with the Ayurvedic medicine?
Symptoms.
Western
Western.
medicine seems to be just put a Band-Aid on and treat the symptom. Eastern medicine has shown me to really treat the root cause and be more of a preventative practice, and also tending to more than just the body or the mind. It's the mind, body, and spirit as a whole, and all your bodies, not just this
A
physical
unified field.
body.
You're
Yeah.
you're a whole bunch of things going on, not just the boo boo on your knee when you get a scrape or whatever. It's like your aura and your, whatever. That gets, I don't know. Raphael, do you know
It
much
does.
about?
It does touch on
yeah.
the aura too.
It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know how deep it gets into that. Is that the thing with Pitta and Kapha and all that stuff? Is that Ayurvedic?
Yes, it is Ayurvedic. Vata, Pitta, and Kapha are relations to the elements. Vata would be the embodiment of air and ether. Pitta would be fire and water, and Kapha would be earth and water. So they're just reflections of those elements within us and around us, and in the food we eat, the practices we partake in. And
That's what's
all of
up. I know that there's only 3 things being represented there, and for a while that like didn't cogitate. I was like, what the heck? That doesn't add up. Like kind of like, the pentagram is earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. But in the in Taoism, I think it is, they have 3 dantians, and it's like, up top, middle, and lower or whatever. Maybe, I don't know if it corresponds in Ayurvedic with that, but these things can still work out even though it doesn't hit the models that I'm used to, or numerological. I'm like, oh, it should be 7 for chakras or whatever it is, and it's like, oh, actually it covers a whole lot of turf. So what I mean, obviously you read that book. You were saying, was there anything about that book specifically that was, I mean, it led you to Ayurvedic stuff, but what was the gist of the book? I haven't read it. And what was the title again? Deepak Chopra book?
The one that introduced Ayurvedic medicine to me was called Book of Health by Deepak Chopra.
All right. And he was just kind of doing a drive-by for the Western mind of a different...
Basically, from what I remember, it was so many years ago. I've been practicing for over 11 years now. But I found that book even way before then. But I remember specifically the part that stood out most was having a daily routine. And those were some of the practices that I was trying to implement in my life. And it worked. It was working for me. So I just wanted to learn more about the practice as a whole, rather than just the daily routine and diet recommendations. And dosha tests and things like
Dosha
that.
tests are where I got in. I was like, oh, what do you mean I should eat more of this? I forget what I even am. I got to take the test again or whatever. So is this, I mean, I've heard of like gua shas and things like that. What are all the elements? I think that's a Chinese thing, maybe not so much Ayurvedic, but you've been doing it for a hot minute. What does Ayurvedic kind of like checkup with you look like? Like when someone comes up in your grill, like what? How does that go about?
Like if somebody were to be doing a consultation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the book. So the consultation, I would ask a series of questions, a lot of it pertaining to your digestive system. Like what does your stool look like, or are you constipated most of the time, or do you tend to be more active? How does your mind work? Are you more of an anxious person, or are you more of a calm person? You
Is
know,
your
these
hair
type of
brittle?
questions.
Like I remember it being like oily skin or not.
Yeah, what's your
Yeah.
skin type? And then I'll be assessing your body and, you know, your eyes, nose, mouth, teeth, everything, and just seeing what elements are expressing through all these features and characteristics that you have. And that will determine what your elemental makeup is. And then you can go from there.
And do you still give consultations?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what's up. I mean, I'll hit you up at some point and be like, yo, I don't have time for this.
I got you.
Yeah, I figured you're cool like that. And your skin looks great, your hair looks great. I mean, I don't know how like, you know, in mode you are with health products and beauty products and stuff, but it looks like whatever you're doing is working.
Oh, thank you. I have my own skincare line.
Oh, what? Tell us about that.
Ayurvedic skincare line. So it's all natural skincare. It doesn't have any chemicals or any additives in it, and I can custom make them specific to your doshas. So just depending on your skin type and everything, I can formulate the products to cater to what you need.
That makes total sense. Rafa, have you ever messed with this stuff? Go ahead.
Yes, to some extent. I mean, I did not do any like professional profiling, but I have some basic ideas about it. Since we're on the topic of book recommendations or good books regarding health, there is one thing I'd like to share with you, which is this book. I'm not sure if you're aware of Gabriel Cousens. He made a very interesting documentary called, if you just look on YouTube or anywhere, Raw for 30 Days. And what you have there is people that are on all kinds of medication. They have all kinds of issues, diabetes, and God knows what else. And it's like a documentary style thing where he's, how do you say that? Accompanying them or with video, and you can literally see. So I'm not promoting necessarily any particular diet. Everyone has to figure this out for themselves, you know, how much raw, how much cooked food. And over time, ideally, you realize, of course, what helps your own body and your own constitution. But within that documentary, Raw for 30 Days, you can really see how within a few weeks, the people change completely. So they have a proper cook, of course, they're in a stress-free environment, and all of these factors are settled. And there, I guess they mainly get raw vegan food. And you can really tell how much their health is improving. They look 10 years younger. Many of them ditch most, if not all, their medication within weeks. So it's very, very, very interesting. And it also goes into the different elements and some sort of a spiritual connection to the different foods you can eat, and this idea of the rainbow diet and things like that. So overall, I would say this is one of the most interesting books that I ever read about nutrition. I think it's worth checking out.
I've never heard of it.
Definitely.
And just so people
I haven't
know,
heard of it either.
I mean, here's a little life hack. There's something called annasarchive.org, and you can get any book basically for free.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. That's where I get all my Warhammer 40K books and crazy psychedelic, like new age books or whatever, hard to find books. Not every book ever, but most books are on there. And it used to be kind of like that thing that got taken down by the feds. I'm forgetting what it's called, but there was some like book thing, and they were like, "Oh no, Z Library," I think that was it called, and they were like, "Nope, nope, nope, none of that." And then this all switched over to annasarchive.org. And basically you can pay for a membership and get like super premium stuff. Otherwise you can just kind of sit for a second and get like slower downloads, but it's not that slow. Anyway, food for thought, the more you know. And it's funny, that book was, I think the title, Raphael, said something to the effect of like Kundalini awakening journey or something. It's like that's not for the faint of heart.
Oh yeah, I mean, he relates it also to like Kundalini stuff and these things, which, you know, you can believe in or not. But from what I remember about the book, I read the whole of it like quite a few years ago, but I did like maybe 2 years of research looking at different things. And then when I read this book, I kind of thought like, well, if I only had read this book at the beginning, to me at least, that's what made the most sense so far in terms of general principles and guidelines.
Mm. Kundalini in itself is very purifying.
What do you? Yeah, tell us your thoughts on that, because not everybody even knows about it or has an opinion or whatever. So, what's your experience with the Ida Pingala Shushuna thing, or however you want to put it, Kundalini serpent?
Well, I'm in school for it right now. I'm in the process of getting my certification. But it definitely touches on your mind, body, and spirit as well. But it literally physically cleans your internal organs and purifies you from the inside out. And it's mind blowing what you can do with just your breath, with your breath and some postures that you're holding.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like a lost art. I was actually talking to some I'm in Dothan, Alabama, where there's a lot of fundamentalist kind of Baptist type Christians, which is fine. It's the culture they choose. But basically, I'm like, the Bible's cool and all, but it doesn't like give you a prescriptive for like, it's not like here's how to work out or here's where your nervous system. It's not like that kind of book. Whereas it seems like the further east you go, they got into really hacking the mind body situation, whether it's meridians or chakras. And I don't know about y'all. I mean, it's fine to be like there's a circle and whatever, an orb, and it's like these are symbol sets essentially. If you're like, oh, my green heart chakra, and it's like green and here it is, they tend to overlay energetically, almost electromagnetically, it seems, with organ systems, like basically. And I'm not sure what's going on there, because I know that we have to have symbols just to kind of get an idea. Or it's like McDonald's, which I don't eat or whatever, but it's like there's an M, big arches, yay. So it's like I think they just had to make it kind of digestible. But yeah, what are your thoughts on chakras, the wheel in Sanskrit, all that jazz?
Well, my thoughts on chakras?
Yeah, or experiences, or it's not some people don't even know about them. I would imagine people on here know about them, but not everybody.
It is something that's definitely very much entwined in Ayurvedic medicine. So you can tell if somebody's got like a root chakra imbalance, let's say if they're constipated or they're having diarrhea, it's telling you to tend to the root chakra. And you can actually prescribe specific mantras and yoga postures for that chakra to get it spinning properly again, so it can be cleansed and functioning in a way that keeps you a clear vessel and a clear channel and full of energy and full
Stay
of
in
light.
flow or whatever. Stay in flow.
Yeah,
I think I saw a really good. I mean, if people YouTube it, it's like 7 minutes maybe or less, probably even 5. But on Avatar: The Last Airbender, the original like cartoon, this Airbender guy or whatever goes to a guru who's kind of Indian or whatever, like Hindi, and basically he's like talking about living on bananas and onions and like doing an extreme diet, not a very temperance card situation, but a very extreme kind of diet, and it having results with opening the chakras. And he's like, it's like kind of like what you're saying, there's energetic clusters like eddies, like in a river when you go there and there's like a lot of debris and stuff, it kind of clusters up and creates a problem. And then doing certain practices, having certain mindsets, beliefs and definitions that work through these energies in a certain way, creates results, I guess you could say. And I've definitely had my girlfriend has sound bowls, and the other day she made me lay down and she was doing these sound bowls, and I was like, I can feel it in my root, I can feel it in this. So this is practical magic, y'all. She's a Virgo with the North Node of Pisces. This ain't no joke. It's real talk. Raphael, what do you think about chakras? I don't know how much, if ever, we've talked about them together.
Well, it's a conceptualization, I would say. You have all these different systems that attribute them, like you said, as Dantian or whatever else. I honestly am not aware right now in terms of Western, approved double-blind study thing, what they found. But I believe, but this is not only from somewhere in my recollection, that there may even be some correlations maybe to the lymphatic system or to other things which are more known in Western medicine, and then you can kind of connect it back. And to me, in the end, I think it doesn't really matter what system you use, as long as you get results to get more healthy and have something useful for yourself. I think it's cool. But yeah, chakras is a great thing for visualization, for example. I think I did that for quite some time, visualizing chakras and just, activating your body. There is also a thing from Taoist studies, which is called the microcosmic orbit. So you have
Montauk
many different
Chia.
things
Oh, I
which
love him.
which
Yeah.
relate to that idea, I would say. Mhm.
See,
And
I
maybe
know
just
about
one
these
more
peripherally.
sentence, that
Go ahead, yeah.
it's ultimately what's often forgotten, just as you said, Alicia, is the whole psychospiritual aspect. Although I would say I'm a big proponent of the physical aspect. So your body has energy at all and has something to work with. But of course, if you're constantly under stress, you're in bad relationships and so on, literally that causes stress. That is the oxidative principle. And that is, how should I say, then your body reacts with inflammation and things like that. So it's certainly very closely related, and very much too often, especially in Western doctor medicine, it is completely overlooked. They just look at their manual and then prescribe you some kind of pill without even asking, how are you doing? How is your wife? And all these kind of things.
Mhm.
So we can keep geeking out about medicine and stuff as we go along, but I'm curious. Oh, it's funny, on this card there's actually a serpent going up this I've still got the card. You don't
Oh,
have to worry
wow.
about it. But I'm just like, yes, the Kundalini, yes, the energy that rises. It makes me think of that Tool music video that Alex graded the art for, where it's like, "Rrr, I got the chakra awakening. How did you get from the West Coast to the East Coast? That's a big dramatic move. You're a Cali girl and Bay Area kind of aficionado, North Cali girl, which is very different than Southern California. You're more recently, I think, in near Miami, right? So
Yeah.
how did you do that jazz? That's a big shift.
Oh, that's a whole story. But a very fun adventure with me and my kids. I always knew I didn't want to stay in California. I've always wanted to travel the world, and I still plan on traveling the world. But getting out of California was a big start. I have some family in Florida, and I had made some friends in the area, and I just loved the climate, and I loved how close it is to Puerto Rico, because I knew that Puerto Rico was going to be a destination point for ancestral healing and for creating generational wealth for my family and connecting to my roots, all of that. But Florida was an amazing pit stop. So me and the kids did a couple road trips out here in my van. We took the southern route, along the coast here, and we just made an adventure out of it. We traveled throughout Florida to see where we were going to land, and eventually we really loved staying at Oleta State Park, because there was like a lot of nature, but it was also right in the city to where we can, explore the city life as well. And when we were there, we actually met a group of homeschool students from a school called Global Field Academy. And they were living out our dreams in a sense. Like, I've always homeschooled my kids, and we were at a phase where, like, they're not babies anymore. They don't want mommy as much anymore. They want friends. They want to get out and socialize. They want to get out and do other things that don't involve me so much. So it was cool to come across this school and see them going on adventures together and traveling together and learning together and all of that. So we decided Miami is going to be where we move. But before that, we bought an RV and took another road trip back to Cali. And
I'm going.
me trying to drive an RV was an
dude.
initiation in itself.
They're huge.
It was huge, and I was terrified, and I was like, aren't you supposed to take some kind of class or something to like learn that you're just gonna give me the thing and I could drive this thing across the world? But yeah, I figured it out. I dinged it a few times. We got a few flat tires. It stopped running when it wasn't broken, and I had to figure out just the logistics of RVs. But it was a very memorable and life-changing experience. We had my snake with us, a bunny, some cats, and the kids. We were thinking about doing like a video blog, because like, who does this? Who goes on a...
You should have recorded it.
We'll
start
probably
doing
do it
it.
again.
Make a YouTube and be like,
we definitely have to visit back into that. I think that's my Gemini that comes in. I get really excited about something, and then I do it. I'm like, okay, cool, we did it. Let's move on to the next thing. or
You're
Sag,
ADD
my
about
Sag
it.
rising maybe.
I gotta look at your chart now that you're saying all this stuff. What do you have in
Yeah, when
Gemini?
you said Virgo, I'm like, yes, I'm a Virgo, but I'm also
Oh,
a
you got
Sag
Jupiter
rising and a
and
Gemini
Moon
moon.
conjunct. Yeah.
I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
I
Oh, dude, you've
just
got a
want to do
Gemini
all the
moon
things.
too. So yeah, we've got ADD. It's like our superpower. It's like, oh, I
Oh
can
yeah,
multi-track. It's great.
yes.
So you have a snake and some pets. Yeah, you should totally. I mean, spilled milk. It is what it is. You can't go back now. But it's like, I'm telling my girlfriend this too now. I'm like, there's no reason not to document your life because it will be a key for somebody, even if it doesn't go viral or whatever. You don't make a shit ton of money. It's like these are important kind of processes of developmental evolution where we are in the zeitgeist right now. And I mean, obviously, somebody probably makes a whole lot of money when there's like, how do you change your tire YouTube video and everybody clicks it or whatever the heck, right? But even if it's just a few people that see what you're doing, it's necessary for their journey. Or else, I mean, I don't know about your personal ontology, but it's like we can't miss what's meant for us. So even if it's like not a viral thing, anybody, like obviously there's not a bajillion people on this chat right now, but anybody who's here, you were meant to be here, kind of thing, or whatever. So,
That's so true.
what kind of snake you got?
I have a ball python. At the time, I had two ball pythons and one boa.
Okay.
So
I've heard
I'm a bit of a snake collector. Somehow I gifted snakes all
more
the time.
Kundalini
Snakes
magic,
and
right?
cats. Snakes and cats, they're just always on the path. And
So
somehow they get pregnant and there's kittens. And my
So-
cat right now is on her third litter of kittens.
Well, you
She's
could set
literally
up
about to pop today.
oh my gosh. Well, hopefully now. Maybe during the new moon. Yeah, I was gonna say a Gemini. The
Yeah.
sun, Mercury's now in Gemini, Jupiter's in Gemini, whole lot of Gemini action. So it's funny because I mean I've got a few thoughts that just popped into my head and we can keep taking the conversation down the road. But I've heard some esoteric high weirdness. I mean, I'm not sure saying this is true, but basically cats, you know how their eyes are a little slitty, like slits, kind of like goats or whatever. Somebody was saying, or I read somewhere at one point, that basically cats are this weird kind of like science experiment from Atlantis or something to that effect, where it's like they took a serpent and another animal and they were like shoved it in together. And I wouldn't doubt that. I've had plenty of cats. I'm like, they are so different. I love cats, so I get it. So I just wanted to say that. I don't know if you have any thoughts or any impressions on that concept.
I have definitely seen that vision in meditations many times.
Yeah.
The serpent with the cat as one being, or the serpent within the cat. So I definitely resonate with that. And I'm still like diving into that in a sense, but it has definitely come to, I have many drawings of the serpent and the cat as one being.
Interesting. Yeah, it's one of those things where owls are flying cats. Owls are great.
See that.
It's funny
With the
because
wings.
with the temperance card, it's like Terrence McKenna, who's a Scorpio sun with a Virgo moon, actually. Terrence McKenna was basically like something to the effect of, you don't want to be so open-minded that you have the wind blowing between your ears. Like you want to be reasonable and use discernment. So when I come across some super, like what I just said, like, oh my gosh, in Atlantis, they hybridized a chimera called a cat and they made it. It's like, I don't have any proof for that. The fact that you had visions of that makes it a little more.
Yeah, and with the
lean.
wings, someone was in the comments saying the owls are cats, but the wings were on the cat serpent being.
Oh my gosh, you got a little totem.
I know I'm not the only one that's had this vision or has seen this. So there's definitely something to it.
So I cannot claim that I have had visions of that particular type of hybrid being, but for whatever reason, even though I never owned a snake or anything like that, but in terms of archetype, both snakes and cats together with dolphins are pretty high up on my list if I like had to choose any animals. So I find that very curious. Oh, but this was, I mean, we're just briefly related. So by now, many years ago, I was in India for a few months and I met all kinds of strange and interesting people. And one of them was like meditating at a cemetery or something along those lines. And he said that he had a vision about going into a pyramid, which was, I believe, the throne was in silver, the pyramid was gold. And then he transferred somewhere else and it switched. So the throne was gold, the pyramid was silver or something like this. And then he went outside and was like, had a completely surreal, how should I say, planetscape in front of him. But the main deity that was kind of guiding him through it was something akin to a Bastet type deity. So like a cat type deity.
Wow.
Yeah. Very interesting, but yeah, cats and also
Cats
I
are
guess
big in
snakes.
Egypt.
Cats are
very
part of the
particular.
underworld too.
What
So
makes
that
you say
makes sense that came up through the so my name Wasiri, the name that you know me by,
Right.
came from an initiation to the goddess Bast, which is a Kemetic
The nice kitty
cat
goddess.
goddess. But she is a funerary goddess, so she's part of the underworld. So for him to be at the cemetery and to see this cat come through, it's very much, you know, Bast energy, or in alignment with cats being part of the underworld or the in between phases.
Now that you say that, I've got a Stacy DeMarco deck, Divine Animal Oracle deck, and she's been on the podcast. Shout out Stacy, she's a cool Aquarius from Australia. But got a shit ton of decks. If you ever want to get an Oracle deck, check out one of her decks. But on the card for a cat, it's talking about Bubastis, this Egyptian city where basically like people would take so seriously their cats that like it. I mean, there's a, how would I put this? Dogs are fully domesticated. Like at some point, I guess the idea is like, you know, cavemen had scraps, they gave it to wolves, whatever. I mean, I'm not saying that is what happened, but the idea right now would be something to the akin of like, they have been hanging out with us for, you know, 10,000 years, 15,000 years, whatever. Cats are still not fully domesticated. They're fairly wild. Like they hang out with us and like get mice or whatever, but they're doing their own thing largely. That's why they're so independent and kind of like, I do what I want. But they were highly regarded in Egypt, so much so that when a cat died, people would shave their eyebrows and they do all these kind of funerary things, mummify the cats, all sorts of crazy stuff in our culture, at least. And yeah, so it's interesting that now that you're saying that you kind of got initiated with that name and it ties into the cat. I mean, I'm a Leo rising, Raphael's a Leo rising, so cats are what's up.
Wow.
Yeah, meow. So anyway, we see how we can go off on tendrils all day long. I'm not against it. I'm just trying to get back on track in my own mind. So you did the Ayurvedic thing. You got your way back east. You did a bunch of road trips, which in hindsight you should have documented, but maybe that gives you the impetus to do so in the future. I guess your issue is going to be as a Virgo sun conjunct your South Node, is like, don't be a perfectionist. Like that might be the issue where you're just like, oh, I'm so hung up. It's got to be just right. If Mary Poppins, you know, if I don't have the medicine. Yeah. So you just, but because of the Gemini moon Jupiter situation, like, you know how to have fun. You're a free spirit. Like, you know, just ride that wave and be Bart Simpson about it. And
Turn the camera on.
Yeah. Just let her rip. All right. So you've been having a good time. Tell us, I mean, you were saying your heritage is in Puerto Rico. Tell us a little about Puerto Rico. I have never been there. I lived in Honolulu for 2 years. And with my brother, and when he went to Puerto Rico, he said it's a lot like Hawaii, except it's, you know, in more like the Yucatan kind of area, obviously, like Central America style. So tell us about Puerto Rico. I've been to Costa Rica and Ecuador and all sorts of places, but I have not been to Puerto Rico. So what are your roots in connection with that? And then like, yeah, what's your calling to Puerto Rico?
Well, I'm Puerto Rican. My family's from Puerto Rico. Some of my aunts and uncles and grandma from Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico, it's a small island, like Hawaii. So when you go there, it's a very humbling experience to be surrounded by such a large body of water, but a very culturally rich island. A mix of, the culture is a mix of, you know, Spanish, indigenous, and African culture. A lot of music, a lot of good food. When you go, it feels like family. It's such a beautiful island. And for years, I've been called to go back. I'm like, so much of my family has moved away from the island, and why is that? So just learning more of the history of Puerto Rico guided my heart back there. And
were there indigenous people there? Because I know the triangular trade route obviously had some issues, or, you know, hangover on that. That's why you were saying there's so many cultures that kind of melted there. But was there like the native Polynesians? They like landed there at some point. There was nothing there. Like they basically like, you know, crash landed and they're like, oh shit, islands. What's the story of the history? I mean, I should Wikipedia this. I shouldn't be asking you necessarily, but it's like, what is the indigenous trip there? Is this? I mean. And I don't even know geographically exactly where it is. I think it's near Jamaica, kind of, right?
Yeah, it's in the islands, that Caribbean islands, the Caribbeans. So yeah, that is one of the territories that the Spanish came and colonized, and it's been an island that has been used for its resources, like many islands, for a long time, to the extent that, you know, a lot of Puerto Ricans are moving away from the island because it's just not what it was. before it had been so heavily colonized. So that, I think that is a big part of the calling for me to go back, and to attempt to play a role in helping the island to thrive once again, for it to be self-sustainable and not dependent on the government. So many people know Puerto Rico is still a part of the United States, but it's not really
It's like the unwanted stepchild.
you
or
know,
something.
like it doesn't have any of the benefits of being part of the states. It's just used for its resources, just like many of the islands. It's used for, you know, the tourism and making money and things along that line. And what I really want to see is for the island to not be in distress because of all of the exploitation that happens. The power can go out at any given moment in Puerto Rico, not just because of hurricanes, but basically just because someone can shut it off.
So how does it feel like infrastructure wise? I've been to Belize and places and back in the day, and that was like definitely second, third world vibe where it's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's beautiful, but like it's a lot of the houses have been destroyed from hurricanes. So that leads into the Earthbound Academy as well, and wanting to have sustainable hurricane proof structures that aren't going to be so easily destroyed when a hurricane does hit, because it happens. It's an island. That's
it's right. It's right in the path of a lot of hurricanes. I know that.
Yeah.
So, and they got pretty flattened out a few years ago, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and that's actually when Biotexture picked Puerto Rico, because they got hit really, really hard from Hurricane Maria, I believe. And they picked they picked from the drawing somebody in Puerto Rico to build a Earthship to show that this is a possible solution for when hurricanes come. This is a hurricane resistant off-grid situation where you can collect rainwater, you can have solar panels, and your house isn't going to get ripped to shreds by the way that this is built. So that's where...
Is that a CGI thing, the picture you just showed? Is that like a concept art, basically?
Yeah, the dome-shaped structure is definitely something that is ideal for places that have hurricanes.
Yeah.
Because the wind will just bounce off of it. It won't rip off the sides and everything.
It's aerodynamic like that. And I mean, it's like a hobbit hole, but like a Jetsons meet the Hobbits.
Yeah, a lot of times it's built into the land, just depending on the climate that you're in. The one that's in Puerto Rico, if you guys want to check it out, it's called Earthship Puerto Rico on Instagram. They're actually one of our partners. They'll be helping us to build ours when we find the land. We recently just went out and helped them build a kitchen for their Earthship that's out there, and it's so much fun. It's so much fun to build, but and it was really fun to learn how it all works as well.
So I've heard about Earthships from like Taos, New Mexico.
That's where they originate.
Okay, that makes sense. And I was always under the impression that it had to be pretty arid land for some reason. I don't know why I thought that. Obviously, Puerto Rico is more tropical and wet.
They're built a lot differently in Taos, because they need to build it for the climate. So in Taos, they build them like with a lot of windows, so you can like have your garden inside and grow all kinds of tropical plants and things like that. And to help to maintain a temperature of around 70 degrees inside, they position it towards the sun in a certain way, so it keeps it warm in the cooler months and then keeps it cooler in the hotter months. But yeah, in Puerto Rico, it's always hot, so there's not a lot of windows in the Earthships of Puerto Rico. That
makes sense. It's more like a cave with windows or something like that. I mean,
yeah, and then it has a cooling system by putting like tubes buried into the ground, because the earth keeps everything cool, and then when the air comes in through there and passes into the structure, it blows cool air into it to keep it a nice, much cooler temperature than what it is outside.
Right. I think in Texas, maybe it was in Texas, somebody was doing a lot of under earth kind of architecture, and essentially it's not a full on cave, but it's like if you do enough earth on top, it creates an ambient temperature of pretty much air conditioned, like 65, 70, whatever. It's like all year round. It doesn't even matter. I'm curious, do you know what they do about, I mean, this sounds horrific, like flooding and high waters? Is it like highly irrigated?
Yeah, so it collects rainwater, And then it also like has little I don't know, channels, the way that the roofing's built and the way things, it helps so the water can slide off and not like build a pool
Right.
into it.
That makes sense. Well, it seems like a really cool idea. How did you turn on to them?
I learned about that when I was living in California. I was working on a lot of people's farms, and you know, people farming. There's a lot of people talking about sustainability, and that really sent me down the rabbit hole of what are sustainable practices, and how can you have a sustainable house? How can you live off grid? And I really decided like I want to live off grid. I want to be fully self-sustainable. That's what I want for me and my family, and that led into like, oh, okay, that's what I want to see in Puerto Rico for my people. I want to see self-sustainability and empowerment and not being dependent on the system.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like developing nations, especially like, I mean, obviously Puerto Rico's maybe not as far ahead in the cities. I'm sure it's like high up and developed or whatever, but I feel like there's a lot of lessons the West has done, America, specifically North America, where it's like, you guys don't have to do it like this. Like, you don't need strip malls. You don't need asphalt everywhere. You don't need, like, they can do it a little differently and maybe usurp the whole learning curve for themselves, like India or, places like that, where it's like, don't do what we did. Like, we fucked up kind of. And it's like, maybe you guys can do it differently and have a better time. When you were doing the farming stuff, was that like work stay or like woofing, or was that just kind of couch surfing with your friends, or what was that?
It was just, I guess, the culture of the town that I lived in. There's farmers everywhere in the foothills. So a lot of my friends had farms, and I was learning herbalism at the College of Ayurveda. So that led me to want to like help people out on their farms and learn different ways of doing things. And
Well, clearly you're a nerd in the best sense. I mean, Jupiter conjunct Moon and Gemini. You're like, I love learning. It makes me feel good. I want to learn all day. Pac-Man with the fucking knowledge there. And then because you are a Virgo, you're grounding it. So tell us a little about herbalism. I mean,
so herbalism is a big part of Ayurvedic medicine. So when I was going to school for that, that's when I was learning about herbs and applying it to my life. And that also led to the skincare, applying it to my skincare and everything like that. And I think that desire connected me back to my childhood as being a kid and being so tapped in with the plants and the fairies and things like that. When I was taking the herbalism course, it really took me back to that place of like how magical being in the realm of plant medicines is. It's so beautiful and so healing.
I think in Hinduism they call them devas or something like that.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, basically there's like different. I mean, I don't need to like say this is what it is, but the idea is like there's certain levels of consciousness within plants. I actually read recently that mushrooms, I'm not sure if it's all mushrooms or certain ones, but they have more in common with us than plants, like DNA wise. Like little things like that, where it's just like, what the heck is going on out here? Yeah, but basically, like, I mean, and Raphael has garlic. I know he's been pushing that for a while, where it's really healthy garlic stuff, and it's like lost art. It's so obvious. It's like not witches, but like mother's tale. I forget what they're called, like not nursery rhymes, but basically like old maid kind of tales. Like people used to have these stories and this folk knowledge basically, and we just abandoned it for some reason in our culture, and now we're kind of coming back to it.
So don't worry, Jim, you're gonna get your shipment soon. Also, Alicia, I want to at the very least let you know about it, but definitely even here talking to people, especially then someone who's maybe a little bit older, or in Europe, especially people from Eastern Europe, they know, for example, about garlic, or they know about, for some reason I want to say apple cider vinegar, but just like generic simple cures that somehow cures, you're not allowed to say that, right? But things
Holistic aids.
Yes, aids that are maybe handed down from, your great grandmother or something. And to me, it's just always so amazing how people have allowed themselves to be indoctrinated into this modern westernized system, and they pretend it's like the standard medicine when it's not standard at all. And from what I learned, if that is even true, even in America up to the 1920s, here the whole conspiracy tagline is with the Rockefellers, right? And the American Medical Association, who wanted to sell, I guess, their how do you call that, extra products that occur from refining oil, and they just needed a market for that, amongst other things, the whole snake oil salesman idea. But before that, most people in the US, or most doctors supposedly, were actually how do you call it, naturopaths, right?
Oh,
So they
wow.
were using herbs and things like that, and it's actually quite a recent and new thing that everyone got addicted to these, you know, super highly extracted and modified substances that usually have crazy side effects and make you dependent, and all the things which go against self-sustainability or sovereignty.
Well, it makes some sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have some compassion for it and just pull back and be like disassociated, it's like people started realizing, like tree bark or whatever. It's like, oh, if you like, that's what's an aspirin, I think, tree bark,
Mhm.
some kind of bark.
White
And it's
willow.
like, there you go, she knows.
Mhm.
What a Virgo. There you are. But yeah, so that like they were like, hey, why don't we just like make this more dense? And like it's like, you know, cannabis or something. It's like, you know, this doesn't have much THC. Let's just make these nuggets super strong and whatever. Like I think there's an ethos within the culture that, and maybe this is changing, maybe it'll always be there while we're alive, I don't know, but where it's just like, you know, harder, better, faster, stronger, Daft Punk style, where it's just like it's got to be all it can be, like not just, you know, not just a little, like big gulps, not just, you know, not just you see what I mean? Like consumer materialism has made it so that we want to extort the most value out of something that we can, and that may or may not be the wisest method, but there's lessons we learn through that. I mean, even if they're not like sustained, like, you know, I guess, how would I put it? It's like Wall-E, the movie Wall-E from Disney. It's like everybody has to get fat and fucking lazy to be like, maybe we shouldn't do this. Like
Mhm.
we've got to learn the hard way, it seems.
Yeah, eventually the consequences will kick in when you don't have that white willow bark to make your aspirin anymore, and then you got to go chop
Figure it.
down the whole species of another tree to make that another medicine like that one, or you know, just the cause and effect.
Yeah. And I haven't been to the Amazon myself yet. Maybe I will, never will. I hope to at some point. But I know that there's so many like cures like on in species of animals and plants, like frogs and animals and plants and stuff, that are like, I imagine most cures that we need are in nature.
Yeah.
But ultimately we've decided that, you know, technology is going there. Do you know about Dolores Cannon and like maybe this idea of a split where it's like, hey, there's you kind of see it out there now, right? Like these days, like it's almost like Ewok village people, like in Star Wars versus like the Death Star. There's people being like, yo, I want to be a transhumanist and I'm going to use Bitcoin all day, and like I'm going to just use VR goggles, which is fine if people want to do that. I'm not even against it necessarily, and AI and all this stuff. But that's going very differently than maybe people who are like yourself, where it's like, I'm going to disconnect and I'm going to root my feet in the mud, and I'm going to know how to grow the herb myself and put the TLC in it so it has a relationship with me or whatever. If you haven't heard about her, that's fine. She's like I don't even know. I guess a hypnotist who did quantum hypnotism. She might still even be alive. I don't know. But anyway, I'm rambling. So what do you guys want to talk about? I mean, obviously we can take this on.
I think what you said really sparked the reason why I wanted to open up Earthbound Academy in the first place. Is that right there, is that sense of, okay, I want to be able to grow this and develop a relationship with this plant because of the fact that this being is a reflection of me, or is a part of me. Like, I think that when you said disconnect and put my feet in the ground, I would say reconnect and put the feet in the ground, because I feel like in this day and age, we are so pulled outside of ourselves and we forget that we are nature. And that's the reason why I feel like having a nature-based learning center is what will help us to remember that, yes, we are nature, and the nature around us, if tended to, will benefit us when we recognize, okay, this plant right here is going to help me heal this ailment because this plant is me and I am this plant. And with that knowledge, we're unstoppable. We empower ourselves and we give ourselves the opportunity to heal ourselves and to evolve more because of that ancient wisdom that nature holds, that is within us as well.
Well, I mean, the idea is that, like, I mean, this is a metaphor. So some people believe it's literally true, but like the metaphor is we've left the Garden of Eden. Like we're out of alignment with nature to such a degree that like we're gonna build cities, we're gonna have technology. We are nature, but we've done something weird and kind of gone on a weird trajectory here. I don't know how much we can remove ourselves from that. Ha ha ha! Green Death Star. That's funny.
This is just a shout out to Andreas Xirtus, who graciously allows us to co-stream on his channel. Welcome everyone on Xirtus' channel. This is an old website of his, actually, I think. But yeah, this is like his synthesis of the whole thing, greening the Death Star. Maybe that's something we'll have to at least conceptualize it to some extent, because the cities are here, technology is here. How can we combine it again in a way that actually, I would say, you know, is sustaining life, allowing for true sustainable development, not necessarily what some strange forums say, but actually for humans, how to uplift everyone and how to combine the great things we have in a way that actually can serve everybody without unnecessary suffering, as I like to say.
Well, even that image right there, it's like a weird yin yang if you think about it. Or the temperance card. I mean, it's like, yes, high magic is crazy. We're all like God experiencing itself, or, you know, all these kind of highfalutin philosophies of Sagittarius. And then at the same time, it's like you need air to breathe. You need, you know, food and water to digest and grow and have your DNA do this thing that it's made to do. So it's like this middle path, very much this middle path. And even though that looks more, that Death Star image looks more like a ruin, like Angkor Wat or something like that. It would be nice to find some synergetic. It's happened before, but we've leaned into the masculine, and I think it really started happening with Descartes, with like this disassociation. I think, therefore I am my thoughts. That means, you know, philosophy and ideas, and then we embed ourselves in ideas, which are very abstract and outside of nature. Like, no, thoughts are cool, but they're not substantial in and of themselves, in a way you could say. In any event, what are y'all's thoughts on like being, because I've talked about this with somebody, I forget who, but it's like, you know, Gaia, if we want to put it that way, maybe has a consciousness, and the sun has a consciousness, and, you know, all these things have levels of kind of awareness potentially. I'm not saying like humans, like they think, you know, I want to win the lottery or something like that, but maybe they have an essence or a chakra, you know what I'm saying, like consciousness. I don't know how to put it, and in a weird way, like all the elements that are in our computers and technology are silica and metals from the earth and stuff like this. So it's almost like we're remixing Gaia into a new form, like it's alchemizing through us, and we're kind of follicles, like hair on Gaia, making it move in a direction, which would lend itself to more like, not pro techno, but like it makes it so we're not. Do you hear what I'm saying? Like if we look at it in a certain light, we're like, oh, we're just stardust that landed on a planet that's having an experience, and we're part of that evolutionary paradigm to the degree that this is where it is now in the trip for the planet or whatever. So it's like its guts are being reconstituted, like the ore inside of the earth, gold, nickel, whatever, silica, you know, uranium, whatever it is getting a remodeling. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I know that's a weird idea, but you could probably jam on that if you want. You're a Jupiter Gemini.
I can see what you're saying. Like sometimes things like when you say ripping its guts out and the, you know, like turning into mush, turning into mush for it to bloom into something new. I could definitely see that creation and destruction process, you know, as part of the evolution process. Like at a point where we're at now, where we're learning, oh, okay, some of these things with all of these building and using up all of these resources and stuff, it's starting to have the consequences and the effects of things where things could potentially fall apart. But in the process of that, we're learning a lot. Like, oh yeah, nature matters too. Like, let's reconnect with that. And then when all of those lessons and everything mush together, I guess we'll come out of it with a new understanding and a new blossoming. So maybe it could be a thing where those things can live symbiotically, where we have these brilliant ideas of technology and such that are applied with the wisdom of nature and our hearts still connected with us. That's a whole nother level of being that maybe we haven't reached yet in our own awareness. Maybe it has in way past ancient times, but
I
in
hear
our
you.
awareness, you know.
Yeah, like full on integration. I mean, the
Yeah.
analogy, you're a mother, you can relate to this idea a lot more than I could as a man. But the idea is like a woman, when she's a maiden or whatever, has, you know, a biology and her hormones and all this kind of stuff. It's like Gaia. It's like Earth before maybe animal life, we'll say, or whatever, before humans as we know it now. And at some point, the woman gets pregnant and her body changes, her hormones change. You know, the baby's basically feeding off of her. It's a parasite in a way. It's like the placenta and all this stuff. I mean, we are like, oh, I mean, it's the way things are, so we're okay with it and we're happy with it. But we look at the baby gestating as like, you know, good and healthy and good and, you know, like normal. And then it pops out of the baby, the water breaks and it's like born and all that stuff, and a whole new evolution. You know, the fractal, the tree makes a seed, and, you know, the whole shebang. So it might be that way. I mean, this is a very positivist spin on things. It might be that way with our species, where it's like we're basically consuming mother like a baby in the womb with the placenta, and it's like we're going to get to a point where we realize maybe we don't have to do it the same way, and then we can have a new and more informed relationship with our environment.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Twain said something
That makes
hilarious.
sense.
I say this all the fucking time, so I got to be careful to overquote it. But Mark Twain said something to the effect of, "You can learn something by holding a cat, ironically, a cat by its tail, that you can learn no other way." So it's like sometimes you just gotta, you know, fuck around and find out, as they say. And it seems like we're doing that as a species. And I would like to think, whether it's post 2012 kind of Mayan stuff and galactic center stuff, that's a very new age paradigm, or if we're just kind of coming to age as a species and maybe we're out of our terrible twos now and we're kind of getting into like a smarter phase, that we can start really taking responsibility and and using our imaginations to see what we can do, instead of just being, you know, governed by dominance hierarchies and fear, basically. It seems, I mean, that stuff has an evolutionary role, like, I think, at some level, or else it wouldn't have existed. But it
Mhm.
seems like we can totally shift gears and really raise the vibrations. I know you know this. I don't have to preach this to you, geez. But uh, I'm reading some comments minimally. I don't mythic class whole things like maybe we're just out here fucking around and, you know, we're just I can't read it all. It's we talk about Bigfoot and lizard people and stuff, but there was one thing he's like, maybe we could be a freak of nature that survived the longest. Clearly, that's part of it. I mean, there's pygmy humans that have been found, and, you know, there's a great meme with Eric Andre, like basically turning around and shooting a guest, and it's like it shows Homo sapiens, and it shoots the other guest on his show or whatever. In the meme says like subspecies or whatever of humans, and then it turns to the camera. It's like, are we the only ones here? Like, like we probably, you know, there's evidence of Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal and Homo sapien wars and, you know, interbreeding and stuff. So it's like it's not a clean and nice neat story. It's an orgy of life finding a way, as they say in Jurassic Park. So anyway, I'm rambling. Good God, I can do that. And Mercury is in Gemini right now, so I know I can do this. Do you want to talk a little more about the Academy and how you know, what you want to be doing with that? Where is your heart guiding you at the moment? Because we can geek out for a little longer.
Okay. We could talk about a part of the academy. So there'll be, of course, sustainable practices such as learning how to build sustainable structures and also gardening in a sustainable way. But another beautiful part of the program would be the cultural immersion, going on field trips and learning more about the history and the culture of the island, or in the future on a larger scale, other parts of the world, taking that same concept of like whatever land we're on, we're going to be learning the history and the culture of that land and learning the best ways to tend to it. And also the equine therapy, which is very dear to my heart. Of course, the Ayurvedic natural medicine and the equine therapy is probably one of my bigger roles in the school.
Hmm.
Um,
So horses, for people who don't know what an equine is, it's a horse.
yeah.
I'll say really quickly, I've fed horses. I don't have them. They're basically like dogs you can ride, or like deer you can ride. They're crazy huge.
A lot of people compare them to dogs, big puppies.
Yeah, they are so beautiful. Their eyes are amazing. I had the chance to feed them in Alabama, where I was in Fairhope, and this lady was like, "You can go feed them," and basically I was, and then she's like, "If you run that way." I don't know why she thought this was a good idea. Maybe it's a horrible idea, but it was like a polo match almost. She's like, "You run that way, and they're gonna run past you," and it like there was like 6 horses or something, and they were running, and the earth was like shaking, and it like got really primal for me. I was just like, this is how it was for a lot of people for a lot of history. Anyway, so tell us about how you fell into horses and what equine therapy means to you.
So I kind of grew up around horses. My dad has always been a horseman. So anytime I'd spend time with my dad, I was spending time with horses growing up. And years down the road, when I had moved from the city back to nature, I had the honor of living with the horses on about 100 acres of land. So my trailer was in the middle of the horse pasture, basically. So I had a very, very close and intimate relationship with the horses, and they were such a pivotal part of me coming back to myself and my own healing journey and experience, that I actually ended up going to get my certification in equine therapy so I can share that with other people. At that point in my life, I was dealing with some, postpartum depression and PTSD symptoms, and I was trying to go to therapy for that, and I was having a hard time putting my feelings and thoughts into words. And I feel like my experience with the horses got me to that place of being able to come back into my body and back into the present moment and able to process what I was feeling and be able to get it out in ways that, whether it be writing about it, talking about it, or just simply processing the information. And aside from that, like, equine therapy is a valuable tool for people working with dealing with PTSD, people that have autism.
I heard the mentally challenged people
People,
really benefit from it.
yeah, like it is basically like a horse is going to bring you back to the present moment. They're going to bring you back to yourself. And horses, throughout history and mythology and everything, horses are known as mediums between the realms. Horses are very attuned, like, so they see the world as if we were on mushrooms. So they
Okay.
see,
Big ol' hearts.
they see in between the realms, they see the energies, they see the auras, they see things that you typically can't see with the human eye. And they are able to reflect to you what they see and mirror to you what's going on with you so you can see yourself. And that experience living with them changed my life in so many ways and helped me come back to myself and build my self-esteem and my confidence, and empower me so much that I knew that this would be a valuable tool to offer students, to offer kids in their youth that are growing up like in this world of this age of distraction with the VR and the tablets and the iPhones and everything that pulls them outside of themselves, to have an anchor in this world, and have a reflection and have a tool that is this beautiful, powerful, magical being that can keep you grounded and keep you rooted and keep you centered in yourself with confidence, and very valuable tools for communication. Not only just like, basically, they teach you a layer of communication that is beyond words, which I think a lot of us have lost touch with, is with being able to pick on the subtleties of people's body language and facial expressions and their energy and what's appropriate and how to move in those type of situations. That's just another layer of communication that doesn't always get touched on, especially in school or just growing up. So horses are a valuable tool with helping you to communicate with confidence and move through this world being present and empowered.
So I just have to give one tiny old world reference here. As everyone knows, even through the Ottoman, the horseman, and who knows how grand of civilizations or how many people, but the relationship between horses and humans is also something that we find in history. And I think that only recently is not so common anymore. For example, in Vienna, I mean, some rich people, of course, they go horseback riding, but even still to this day, we have the Spanish Hofreitschule, they call it. So like the Spanish Royal Horseback Riding School, which maybe is one of the most famous. I'm not sure if they actually treat the horses properly, to be honest, and if they are as them as they could be, but it is still held like as a royal and important and upper high class thing to have a relationship with a horse or to be able to ride a horse. One thing I would like to ask you, since you obviously have a lot more experience in this than I do, I once heard that there is something akin to the idea of having wild horses, but you can actually develop a relationship with them that without having to, as they say, break them, you
Mhm.
can still like they would allow you
Engage with
to
them.
ride them. Where I'm like, if I have a relationship with any being of any level of consciousness, this is the only way how I would want to relate to them, that it's a mutually agreed thing and not some kind of, I want to say, MK Ultra traumatization, which were like, yes, okay, you can ride, but that the horse actually, when it agrees to consciously conscience to it, is that the proper word?
Consensus. Yeah.
Consents, yeah,
Consent. Yeah.
yes.
Not consensus. Consent. Yeah. My bad. Yeah, there's wild horses in Virginia and out in Colorado. I think they're actually rounding them up with helicopters and crazy shit lately.
Yeah,
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I was like, I think it
for
might be like a
slaughter,
problem.
basically.
Yeah.
But hope a lot of people, thank
They're
goodness,
pitching
are out
that.
there rescuing them, which is one of the things we want to do at Earthbound Academy, is also rescue the horses so they're well fed and nourished. But yeah, horses are definitely seen as keepers of higher wisdom. So to be in their presence, with the mindset of learning from them and bonding with them rather than trying to break them and dominate them, you get so much more from that connection. And yeah, that's something that I'm very grateful that I learned from my dad. But growing up with my dad around horses, he really had a very passionate view about, okay, I'm not, he was a horse trainer. So in his eyes, it's like the horse is training me. The horse is teaching me how it wants me to communicate with him. So he always had, he didn't whip the horses. He didn't have those bridles that have the metal in them. He made his own bridles that had no metal. In fact, he taught me how to ride the horse without anything at all. Like just
Bareback.
like Avatar, move like
Yeah.
Avatar. You don't need the reins, you don't need none of that. You can just communicate with this beautiful being and move as one.
It's funny
And
you were saying
we're great
Avatar
for
'cause
that.
I was sitting here thinking of Avatar. I was like, there's no horses in that. Why do I think there's a horse in that? And it's like, it's
Those
the
flying
pterodactyl thing.
yeah, that's just like
Same
riding a
relationship.
horse. You just plug in and then you're one. And that's a beautiful life lesson to learn how to tap in like that with any being,
Yeah.
to be able to understand each other at that level.
Well, it's how you temper, right? Temperance card. It's like, look, like if you and even Bach had the well-tempered clavier, like the well-behaved, well-tuned, or whatever. If you want to get in tune with something, you have a circle, a monad of being at some level, and they have a circle and a monad of being, and you make a Vesica Pisces. And to do that in a way, you're gonna have to understand. I mean, there's, like you were saying, there's so many levels of language that are non-verbal that, like, I mean, obviously, if you've ever, you have, and I have, and I don't know if Raphael has or viewers, but it's like if you get in your horse, it's like you want to be conscientious. you can't, you could get kicked and lose a fucking tooth or break an
You
arm.
have
Or,
to be present.
yeah, if you're not, there's gonna be. It's not like they're violent animals, but like they're on, they're basically big deer.
They tend to pick on you when you're not being present. They have a way of reminding you to, hey, we're doing something here. So
Stay here, be here now.
if you're not all there, they're gonna do something to pick on you.
Interesting. Well, it's cool that your dad had I mean, obviously he had to make money and do his thing and all that. So I'm sure he wasn't just like some hippie, sitting in like a teepee on a horseback or something. But it sounds like his ethos was very positive compared to, what it could be. Some people just look at them. I mean, people have seen movies and stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure Nietzsche freaked the fuck out. Friedrich Nietzsche, like the guy who's like God is dead, and this philosopher, German philosopher, he was a vegan. I'm a vegan, plant-based all day. And I don't push it on people, but basically he was all about animal rights and stuff. And some guy was beating his horse, like how people used to do. It's like, go where I want you to go now. And he freaked out and basically almost killed a dude. I'm pretty sure. And then he kind of went like nuts a little. But anyway, it seems, yeah, that's an animal that it's a good, how would I put it? It's got so much more power than us. And it's not like exerting the power. It's not like demonstrating power. Like
And
sometimes
even to this day, we're measuring the strength of cars and
horsepower.
horsepower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say.
Well, yeah, that shows also in the Stacey DeMarco deck. I'm going to probably reference it a lot because we're talking a lot about animals and it's an animal deck. But the card, I forget, it might be 55 for some reason. I think it is. Freedom is the horse, and it's got this whole mythos and stuff like that. But basically, and obviously, there's probably alternative histories, and everyone's got their kind of 2 cents on this stuff. But we owe a great debt to horses to even be where we are now. Like, we would not have built any.
I think that is undoubted. Even in alternative history, the horses are incredibly important.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in all sorts of mythologies, Poseidon, whoever, Apollo rides the chariot with the horses in the sky and all this stuff. It's like we co-evolved. And I don't know. I mean, this is one of those things where I've been taught to believe, I don't know if it's the facts or not, that horses were brought over to North America from Europe. They're not native to Europe, as far as I know. They're from China originally and like Mongolia and stuff. So yeah, it's just a fascinating little creature that we take it for granted, I think. And I'm glad that you're kind of bringing awareness to it. And it's definitely a lost art, if you want to put it that way, because we just don't even deal with horses. Like if you see a horse, I saw a video the other day of like 4 maybe dudes in Texas going into Walmart on horses, like as a protest or something weird. And it just felt like way out of place. It was just like, what is going on? But back in the day, I mean, most people were involved with horse handling or breeding or whatever. So lost art, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of it in Puerto Rico, which like warms my heart so much because you'll just see some random person riding down the street with a horse just in the midst of down the road where cars drive and everything. And it's just a normal thing in Puerto Rico still. So there's horses all over the island out there. It's known for just random horses out there.
That's what's up. All right. So how did you start moving into wanting to make a nonprofit? Obviously, you're in the journey of trying to create roots and settle in and create the space. You're in kind of an incubation phase, like you were saying. You don't have your butterfly wings yet, but you are kind of saying, you're in the you're in the cocoon or whatever. So how did you start getting I mean, I think we hear how you got like the idea sparked and a few of these tendrils have led you to this place, but where did you find your business partner or whatever for the nonprofit? And when were you like, this makes total sense? And what are your hopes and goals for this beyond just, affecting the youth? Like you were talking almost not franchising, that sounds strong, but it's like this can be applied in multiple contexts outside of Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like adaptive that way. Go ahead and talk. The conch is yours.
So the homeschool I was telling you about, Global Field Academy, we ended up going to that school, and Orianne, you see right there in the picture, she's one of the teachers at Global Field Academy, and she's also a globetrotter and animal lover and nature lover, and my kids absolutely love her. She's one of their favorite teachers at Global Field Academy. But I fell in love with the school. The school is founded by Brett and Virginia Emmons, and their vision lined up so much with what my dream has always been for my kids, is to like have a pack of kids and to travel the world and go on adventures and do all kinds of fun stuff while still learning all the things that you're supposed to learn to go through school. So
Magic
I
school
found,
bus almost.
huh?
Miss Frizzle with Magic School Bus.
Yeah,
Like, they were
like,
learning.
we found our community. We went there and I'm like, oh my God, I'm feeling the pull stronger and stronger to Puerto Rico. I'm feeling like it's time to go, but I don't want to leave you guys. Like I found my people. This is so amazing. And I was just in the kitchen talking with some of the moms, and they're like, well, do it and we'll help you. Like, well, we're not going and we'll come visit you. We'll just make it part of our field trip stuff. And I was like, okay, so I'll do it. And I talked to the co-founder, and she's like, oh, you need to talk to Orianne. Like she was just talking about what if we can do this other places too, not just in Miami. So that's where Earthbound Academy was born. Me and Orianne got together and we're like, hey, you want to do this in Puerto Rico? This is my vision and this is her vision. And we put our heads together and birthed this beautiful baby that we are ready to share it with the world. Even though we haven't quite found the land yet, we are still taking students on field trips. So we partnered with Global Field Academy and recently just took them on a field trip to Puerto Rico. Our first day, we got to do a bomba class.
Okay.
And then we went over and, we explored some of the historical beaches. We explored the caves. We went over to Finca Gaia, which is now another one of our partners in Puerto Rico, which is a sustainable farm in Dorado. And they took us and taught us about a lot of the indigenous plants of Puerto Rico. They taught us a lot of the history about the caves and what they're doing on the island, and protecting and preserving the land out there. And then we made our way to the other side of the island in Aguada, where the Earth ship is. And like I said, we helped to build the kitchen out there and learn about Earth ships. And we also took some surfing lessons. We went out to eat at some great places and had such a beautiful time. The kids had so much fun. They can't wait for the next one and for more students from the school to come. And we're looking to partner with other schools in Miami or other parts of the world to bring them that same experience. So even though we're still looking for the land, we're still raising funds, we are still giving the experience of Earthbound Academy and what we're doing by doing these type of tours.
That's what's up. I mean, it's like you don't have to have one point of contact. A hand has many fingers. So it's like on the one hand, no pun intended, you could obviously you want to. It sounds like you're Jupiter conjunct Moon in Gemini and Pisces North Node and all this stuff, Virgo Sun. Like you're here to have a magical field trip life, basically. Sagittarius rising, of course. It's like, yes, let's go teach and learn and play. And it's like almost like Fraulein Maria or something from The Sound of Music. She's like, we can go out there. The school, this life is school. Let's go.
Yes.
So it seems like you have your own ambitions, but at the same time, you've got these kind of meeting culture on its own terms to kind of give initiations, if you want to put it that way, or kind of just like taste tests or whatever of how the other life could be.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful part of learning that I've always wanted for my kids. And I know a lot of people out there feel the same way. Like what better way to learn than to go immerse yourself in another culture and learn how other people do things and learn all the different ways of doing things and also learn all the ways that we're so connected. So even though we're starting in Puerto Rico, like ideally we'll partner and connect with people and have hubs all over the world so we can have an exchange program so we can work together and be like, hey, this group of people wants to go to Brazil. So let's put these group of kids together and go to Brazil and learn about that and see what we can do to tend to the land out there and learn about the culture out there and swap around all over the world and just really create some really nurture some well-rounded beings of our future generations that have a taste of the entire planet and not just one sliver of the world.
Not just one slice of pie. I love it. I mean, that's some Age of Aquarius stuff. We're going into it, right? And it's funny because the idea came to my mind is like, okay, the kids in the tropics, like they're probably gonna want to, how would I put it? If you get so global that it's like, oh my gosh, the Eskimos want to go to the beach. And the kids are like, well, I don't know about that cold up there. I'll go for a week, but it's kind of a downgrade.
No, but the kids in Miami, they wanted to go to the snow. Like the kids, a lot of kids at Global Field Academy, we had a field trip to Wisconsin. So most of the kids that grew up in Miami have never seen snow. So that was like a big spark of like, oh my God, these kids have never seen snow. And to see how happy and excited they were to see snow was like, okay, this is more reason why we just got to go to all the places so we can experience all the things. And
well, it sounds like you're going about it the right way. I mean, if you build it, they will come, Field of Dream style. You're going about it practically, but also like letting your excitement drive you. And these are honestly looking at your chart and stuff. You have skills for this, and I'm sure you were very cool. Even though your kids want like other kids and other stuff going on, I'm sure you were a great teacher and a great homeschooler. I was homeschooled for 1 year, and my mom was like not qualified. I love her; she's a Sag, but she
it's hard.
Dude, all I learned about was like marine biology, like only to the point where I was like, I want to be Jacques Cousteau, but I have no clue about like how to do math that year or whatever. It was like first grade. I was just like, Mom, your heart is in the right place, but like this isn't working. I'm not getting a well-rounded
It
education
takes
here.
a village. It's not easy.
No, it does. It does take a village. And people, I mean, okay, so what are your thoughts? We could start winding it down because I know Raphael's got stuff to do at some point soon. What are your thoughts about AI and like ChatGPT and utilizing kind of, I mean, at best, it's almost like a library of Alexandria where we can reference and you can learn so much so quickly. I don't really use it that much. But I mean, I'm trying not to be a Luddite and like refuse it. I don't want to just be like, no, you know, like that. But at the same time, I don't want to be a, you know, tech cyborg personally. So, what are your thoughts in terms of implementation of that and where you see things going with tech? You don't have to have a strong opinion, or maybe you do. I don't know, but it just crossed my mind where it's like, you know, it's cool to go to libraries, and that's like kind of a modern, not terribly modern, but you see what I mean? Like it's a modern kind of idea to be able to get on the internet and Google something or Wikipedia something. This is like the next extension of that, but it's obviously got some, it's more complicated than just Google. So yeah, do you have a concept or a preference, or how would I put it? Do you have any philosophy around AI or where we're going with this stuff? Are you, it sounds like you're so hippie and natural that you're like, I don't want the kids on VR. Like, let's get in the dirt and make the flower bed kind of thing.
I have mixed feelings because I'm also very open-minded. And I myself am using ChatGPT and it's been very helpful for a lot of things for me. But I'm also like, I have a push and pull. Like there's a side of me that's like, oh yeah, I'm learning all these things and this is so easy because this is available and all that. But in my heart and my soul, I'm like a wild bush woman to where I'm like, why can't my great grandma just teach me this? And why can't we get back to that? And I think that's definitely what I lean towards, especially when it comes to having a school, because ChatGPT is everywhere, technology is everywhere. They're going to get it somewhere out there from everybody else. So to have the school be focused on nature based and giving like, hey, there's some elders to give you story time and teach you this way and hands-on experiences and all of this, like that's definitely where I'm at when it comes to a nature-based learning center. But
what are the age groups that you're working with mostly? It sounds like more elementary, middle school kind of age.
Probably elementary up to all the way through high school.
Okay.
Yeah, the last group that we brought to Puerto Rico was 12 and up, but next time we'll take some of the younger kids too, now that the older ones paved the way.
I wonder if you think of like, I mean, obviously we have like elementary, middle school, high school in the States or whatever, and then like university, you're like more of initiated. And obviously, you know, native traditions, whether it was peyote or, you know, mushrooms in some places, if they rites of passage basically, where it's like, hey, you're not a kid anymore, you're an adult. Like this is, you got to think for yourself now. Do you foresee yourself how do I put this? There's gonna obviously like elementary kids shouldn't probably be smoking weed and all this stuff, so they were not going to. But do you see yourself expanding the model to incorporate other levels of this, like for young adults that are not just kids, I guess is what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely aimed like for families to experience together too. Like families could come, it's a homeschool style type thing, so families could come and join in on the classes and whatnot, or even teach some of the classes. But yeah, I would love to see it. When you mentioned rites of passage, I love for that to be a part of the program and honoring what phase of life people are at and honoring the curriculum and what benefits, you know, like in Ayurvedic medicine, there's no one size fits all for like, there's no one herb or one thing like that's going to work for everybody in the same way.
Correct.
Like you really have to go for each individual and their unique elemental makeup, and you can apply that to everything in life. So of course I'll be applying that. We'll be applying that at Earthbound Academy too. Like what is needed in this moment for who we have in front of us and what is going to be the most beneficial.
Yeah, the one size fits all. I mean, there's some things you can do. Like everybody needs to eat, I guess. You know, there's certain truths that are like everybody breathe, but we are very nuanced, fearfully and wonderfully made creatures. So we need to kind of honor what we are and know what we are. And that's really the kind of impetus of reality. It's like know thyself, as the Oracle of Delphi said, or whatever. So, Raphael, you got any questions?
Well, I love what I'm hearing. I asked a few questions already.
You
I
did?
think it's great, honestly. Just as you were talking about this, I had the same question as Jim. I was like, oh, this sounds so nice. And I was just imagining, wouldn't everyone want to, tell their children, look, you can go here or there, learn about these things, be with nice people. And I didn't know the reference about Sound of Music, because Sound of Music, although it's an Austrian movie, it's only known outside of Austria. So that there was this Fräulein about the field school, but obviously this is how education should be. I would only repeat whatever you guys have said already, but to me, this is most obvious that this is the effective way to actually learn something about other cultures, about yourself, about other individuals, and most likely, especially for US standards, I would assume, get most of the curriculum probably crammed into a few years without even having any stress or anything, so you can do, how they call it, arithmetics, what it's called, arithmetics, arithmetic and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So just learn that on the side while you can actually learn about a culture and learn some language, which anyhow you learn best when you're in the country. So yeah, I wish such a type of education experience for everyone, honestly.
Yeah, it sounds like Montessori homesteading or something, where it's just like this very unique vision and blend of things. And you're well on your way, mademoiselle. So it seems like, Godspeed. Obviously, if people want to check out your links, we've had them in here. Go to Earthbound Academy, the website and the socials. Check it out, donate, hit her up, whatever's clever. And yeah, these are the things we need to be getting a part of. This is, the whole thing on Team Rabbit Hole is find the others. It's like people are doing what we want to be doing. We just have to be aware of it and then move our energy in the direction we prefer. That's all it ever was. So looks like you're doing beautiful stuff, and I'm really glad to have finally met you. I mean, I've talked to you peripherally occasionally, right? And you're cool as fuck on that front, but now I have actually conversed with you. You're as cool as I thought you were. So huzzah. Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
happy we got to meet too. I feel like we can have many, many deep conversations.
For sure, your Team Rabbit Hole all day. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, find the others, guys. That's really the whole point. Getting out of our comfort zones and looking at life as an opportunity for exploration doesn't mean it's always fun. It can be scary. It can be, there's a lot of lessons. You can get the wind knocked out of you or whatever. But we're here to expand consciousness, our bodies, our minds, our hearts, all of it, and include a lot of things. So that's my last 2 cents. Raphael, Alicia, if you've got any last parting sentiments, feel free.
I just like to thank you, Alicia, for coming on, sharing all these great ideas. I think very inspirational. I wish you, as they say, Godspeed. Is that a thing to say, right? Best of luck.
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure if I believe in luck, but I think synchronicity abounds also.
May the cats be at your back.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much. And of course, thank you, Jim, as always. And thanks everyone in chat from my side. And the last word goes to you, Alicia.
Oh, thank you both very much. It was a pleasure talking with you both and meeting you both. And I am so honored to have been interviewed and questioned, and the opportunity to share this with whoever may see this. Please do check out our website, earthboundacademy.org. And if you feel called to donate, or if you know anybody or you yourself would want to partner with us in any way, please reach out. We have our website, email, Instagram, Earthbound Academy, Facebook, Earthbound Academy. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to collaborate.
That's what's up.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
Yes.